I'm giving away this fantasy-themed mystery box. It contains merchandise from The Witcher, Game of Thrones, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I'll even be throwing in this Magic the Gathering Lord of the Rings starter kit. So if you want to get your hands on it, stick around to the end of the video to know how. Some may prefer to watch the Insidious films in order of release date, but watching Insidious in chronological order is arguably the best way for viewers. Watching it in this way makes a more cohesive narrative and a far more coherent timeline of events. To watch the story in order, it's best to start with Insidious Chapter 3. In the film, we meet teenager Quinn Brenner, who believes her mother is trying to contact her from beyond the grave. In an attempt to reach her, she contacts paranormal investigator Elise. This is when Quinn is attacked by an evil entity with an oxygen mask, and he is named the Man Who Cannot Breathe. Elise ventures off into the further, where she finds herself up against the demon searching for a soul. This movie first introduces Elise, who becomes an important and life-saving character in the rest of the series, while also feeding us some wonderful horror in the process. This is then followed by Insidious: The Last Key. The Last Key delves further into Elise's life and how she became a paranormal investigator. It is one of the most recent entries in the franchise, and while it takes place after the events of Chapter 3, it is a prequel to the first two films. The Last Key also includes flashbacks of Elise's childhood. So back to the plot of this film, Elise receives a phone call from a man who claims that his house is haunted. What Elise thinks is a normal job, however, soon turns into something more sinister. She learns that the caller's address is her haunted childhood home. Now she will need to confront her worst fears and return to the home to deal with the demon she accidentally released years earlier. And this is when we're introduced to the Lambert family for the first time alongside her journey into the further. But Elise unintentionally leaves the door between the further and the Lambert's home open. Later that night, Elise has a dream about Dalton and soon after receives a phone call from the Lamberts. This sets up the events that unfold the first Insidious installment. Insidious is technically the first film in the series, the one where audiences were first introduced to the Lambert family, who Elise became aware of at the end of The Last Key. A demon is now terrorizing the Lambert's son, Dalton, after finding his way through the door between the further and the real world. Dalton appears as if he's in a coma, but he's actually stuck in the further and is trying to find his way back home. In a remarkable discovery, Elise remembers Josh Lambert, Dalton's father, from when she met him as a child. She informs Josh that he has the same astral projection powers as his son, but his memories were suppressed to protect him from a demon that terrorized him as a child. From there, Josh enters the further and drives the demon away, rescuing Dalton and reuniting the happy family. Or so it would seem. Soon after, Elise realises that Josh has been possessed, leaving audiences on a cliffhanger as her newly deceased body is discovered at the Lambert home. Choked full of fantastic jump scares, and what's next for the Lambert family is perfectly set up for the second installment in this franchise. Which brings us to Insidious Chapter 2. Chapter 2 opens with Josh being investigated for the murder of Elise, completely unaware that he's possessed by a demon at this time. With help from Elise's team, they contact Elise's spirit. Josh finds himself once again travelling into the further to rid himself of this possession and to put all this horror behind them. After the family is reunited, Josh and Dalton decide it's best to suppress their memories of this tragedy. The audience is also treated to flashbacks of 1986. And this is where we see Elise suppressing young Josh's memory of his psychic abilities. The same abilities that came handy in this film. Technically, Chapter 2 is the perfect ending for the Insidious series and brings the story to a close. However, it also leaves the door open to Insidious: The Red Door. The Red Door is the most recent entry in the franchise and came out 10 years after the release of the second film. Directed by lead actor Patrick Wilson, it fittingly takes place 10 years after the events of the previous, with the third and fourth films acting as prequels to the first two. The film opens with Wilson's character divorced from his wife and mourning the recent loss of his mother. Adding to the tension is his son Dalton, who is going off to college. Repressed memories of their shared trauma prove hard to suppress, however leading to a whole new onslaught of entities, both new and old. Only by facing their past can they overcome the issues in the present. The latest installment in this series is meant to tie up the family Lambert storyline. The ending of The Red Door perfectly wraps up the Lamberts' experience while still leaving room for ongoing material. So what is next for the Insidious franchise? To this day, the Insidious movies remain some of the scariest modern movies. And while the Lambert story might have been wrapped up, the Insidious universe is ever growing. While the Lamberts might be done, there have been talks of a new film in the same universe. The story has been titled An Insidious Tale. It will feature Kamal Ninjani and Mandy Moore, as well as the Moon Knight writer Jeremy Slater. It will take inspiration from the Conjuring films, and the story will focus more on the mysterious Derva. So there we have it, guys. Let me know in the comments below which Insidious film is your favourite. And if you want to win this fantasy themed mystery box, all you need to do are these 3 simple things. Leave a like on this video, comment on any of my videos, and subscribe to my channel, and one lucky random subscriber will be announced on the 31st of July. You can even hit that bell icon to keep up to date with my latest uploads and giveaways, such as my comic book giveaways every fortnight. And lastly, before I go, I just want to say a big thank you for watching and to smash that like button. I'd really appreciate it, and it helps this channel grow. So with all of that being said, I will see you in the next one, but until then, take care.